Well, the youngest one does, so.
I don't know.
Well, I noticed lately when I some of the
Oh, that
like to
fine
read.
print,
print,
that's
I
hard,
start reading this line here,
Too much
Then
stuff
you
I
get up
should
and I'm
be
right
doing.
right back the same line again.
That's hard to follow that.
Hi, Larry.
What I do, I cheat. I take a piece of paper and I put it like that, and then I'll go down to the next line and keep it all on the same line. Then if you got a
Larry, do you think that would work for
little better,
you?
it's cheating, but
Personnel meeting on December 9th, do you think that would work for you? We have
I never
strategic planning in
experienced
the
that
morning.
before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Month or just a half month and a half?
We have strategic planning in the morning on December 9th for personnel changes
got some ballots.
of the county board. We don't have to vet.
Pencil,
4 minutes, 3 minutes.
clip, paper clips. They recycle them. They can lower the budget.
Oh, you're showing me dead things again.
They die natural deaths, Donna, don't worry. I think she really
That's how
likes
she
it.
did that. Yeah, yeah. That's how she has it.
wow.
Mounted.
Oh, there. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
When we were talking about those are all for dead things. when we were talking,
know.
it's strategic planning about.
Have to set their watches ahead.
Mark is gonna be a little late.
There's no excuse for that. Oh. Either
Gonna
you're
be
here or
late?
you're not here. None of this coming in late
Russ is
stuff.
not going to be here. He's absent.
Oh,
she say he was
that's
late?
what this looks like this, huh?
That's her
You
view.
have to think of your best vacation.
Jealous.
Are you?
Is he? Oh, he should be.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I got to
So now, is the mount
Well,
like,
he wasn't
is
doing
this
so
just
good.
Joe back?
Oh, that's what I mean. Bognowski wasn't doing so good. I don't know if he's, huh? If he's been in the hospital or not.
She was pretty
Yeah.
excited about that, huh?
Guys will tell you to do it.
Yeah, she's
Oh, Joe's in the hospital?
very cool. That is cool. Pat, on December 9th, we have a strategic planning
Probably will be on teleconference again tonight.
one again, and then we'll do our
I'm going to call
all
Rick
of
King.
them. So I wrote a note on a piece of paper there.
Tell him to see that go out on the.
He's over in the swing bed, and he ain't by what?
And what, is he get wild over there?
Well, that's what I
And see you sneak in.
Well, he's supposed to go there for that, no.
Oh, wow. Then the. Well, they call them for.
And it makes you afraid to go to the hospital. You come out worse shape than when you go in.
$10.
I called him and talked to him. If I called his sister, and his sister is her, is his healthcare person, but just call him direct and I'll have you.
Call Lincoln.
Yeah. If they allow that, yeah, that's a good way to do it. Then you talk right to the person instead of secondhand information.
I haven't seen him out for a while. Out without his coat on.
That farm thing. You're supposed to bring your stuff from last.
It's way, way colder than this.
This time we got another great big bunch of stuff.
The 7? Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Mel will do roll call. Mark will be here a little bit late. Joe is going to appear by phone, and then Russell is excused. He had a town board meeting. That's it.
Mrs. Krantz.
Here.
Mr. Heisey's excused. Mr. Tim.
Here.
Mr. Piaski isn't with us yet on the phone. Mr. Eckstein.
Here.
Mr. Weddy.
Here.
Mrs. Collada.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Waddle.
Here.
Mr. Rothermel.
Here.
Mark Kirschner will be joining us. Hi, Joe. Hi, I'll just put you on hold and then put you on speaker. You're just in time. Okay. You there, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, first we'll start with our 2015 budget public hearing. We have the budget. We all have our copies of the budget, and it's been made available to the public if they wanted to see it. Are there any questions or? Okay. Is anyone here that wants to speak on the budget? Okay. Then I guess we will resume the county board meeting. And we'll start with silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we are at the public comments portion of our agenda, and we have Bob Magdans. Okay. Thank you.
You'll have to excuse me, I'm not a very good public speaker, but I am here tonight to address you about the Implements of Husbandry Act 377. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Bob Magdans. I'm part of Magdans Dairy LLC, along with my three sons, Dan, Tim, and Steve. We're a 550 cow dairy, and we're located on County Trunk A between County Trunk E and Highway 49. In addition to our dairy herd, we also grow 1,200 acres of alfalfa and corn for feed. About a third of our acreage is rented, or owned, and 2/3 is rented. And most of our land is within a 4-mile radius of our farm. I'm a lifelong resident of Waushara County, as are my sons. I'm going to read this portion now. I want to address you about the new Implements of Husbandry Law, Act 377, which your board will soon have to address. Our major concern is the weight limits for tractors pulling more than our tankers for brief periods of time, either once or twice a year. And this is our main concern, but I'm sure that some crop farmers might have some other concerns similar to mine. The reason these implements are used is because of the solids in the manure, which if it is greater than 30% cannot be transported in truck tankers because of settling out issues. And this can be a very serious problem when it comes to emptying manure storage systems. I know for a fact this is not just a problem we have, but other mother and dairy farmers run into the same problem. Typically, depending upon weather conditions, to complete the task in the spring and in the fall, it takes 3 to 6 days. And of course, if it rains, sometimes you quit altogether. Since 2002, we've been using the tractor-tanker combination for a portion of our hauling needs each spring after the county road limits are off, and also in the fall. And we have to do this mostly because quite a bit of our land is rented, and it's we just can't go right out to a field. We're very conscious about road conditions, and to our knowledge, we've never had a problem with damaging any of the roads we use, either county or town roads. Therefore, I'm strongly urging you as a board to adopt option D, the partial opt-out number 2 of Act 377. This will allow you to protect our Waushara County roads while still allowing area farmers in the county to efficiently do practices needed in their modern farming operations. I saw an article on the internet that contained a sample resolution that I tried to adapt for our needs, and I shared it with 2 of your board members, Mr. Tim and Mr. Eckstein, but I also told them that I do not know if it meets all the legal requirements, and I'm sure they'll share this with you in the future. One thing I'd like to stress, it is important to remember that by passing partial opt-out number 2, you're not opening all the county roads to higher weight limits for agriculture, but just certain portions of a particular road as need rises. Finally, I would like to thank you for taking the time and your attention in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Weddy. Second by Eckstein. I'm sorry. He usually seconds it. Second by Bernadette. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'll be all right.
That's the D.
That's what he wanted.
All right, and we need an approval of the minutes of the October 21st, 2014 monthly meeting. Motion by Eckstein to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Weddy. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll go to old business and consideration of possible action on the following resolution, and this is the resolution 30-10-14. Adoption of the Waushara County Farmland Preservation Plan for 2014. Motion by Wado, second by Eckstein. Do you have questions? We tabled it last.
I think there was something in the packet
Yeah.
that talked about the questions that you had.
So your questions have all been answered?
They've been answered, but my comment is that the report wasn't very well done as far as statistics are concerned, because an average person looking at the report should be able to determine what the statistics mean, where they come from, and none of us were able to do that at the last meeting.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
New business, we have reports and presentations. We'll have first a CAP Services update. President and CEO Mary Patoka.
No, I'm your clicker.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, just give me the look. I'll move the screen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Mary Patoka. I'm the president and CEO of CAP Services. As I walked in, I overheard the name of Lester Van Loon, and my ears peaked right up. For those of you who may not know, Lester, the former mayor and longtime resident, was one of the original board members of CAP Services. He helped us actually start the organization back in May of 1966. So part of what I wanted to talk to you today about was a little bit about CAP, certainly because we want you to all know that we are here to help people in this community as well as the rest of our service area. And our mission statement certainly kind of guides the work that we do. And it's really to help low-income people have access to services and programs that help them become more self-sufficient. We were born, as I said, back in 1966, but it really grew out of President Johnson's War on Poverty. And some of those early programs back in 1966 included the Low-Income Weatherization Program, Neighborhood Legal Services, VISTA, I shouldn't use my hands so much. Sorry about that. VISTA, Job Corps, Head Start, and then Community Action. So when you hear CAP Services or you hear about other community action agencies around the country, many of them run some of these programs, but it's the Community Action Agency that really houses them. Not in every case, but these were part of what really President Johnson and Sergeant Shriver, who helped him build the War on Poverty programs, really felt would help make people become more self-sufficient. The photo there is actually one of our weatherization workers. He's surrounded by insulation and wearing protective gear because that can get kind of nasty, especially when you crawl in bed and you're just crawling. But in addition to the programs that were started, just a couple of bits about community action. There are 1,000 community action agencies around the country. They are all private nonprofit organizations, much like CAP Services, and they are designed to meet the needs of poverty in their communities. Part of the way President Johnson formulated these organizations is they must, by design, have 1/3 of their board of directors be low-income people or elected by low-income people. So that, to this day, is still very much a part of our structure as well as those other organizations. The idea was that low-income people probably have the best ideas on how to solve poverty problems, that it shouldn't be done in Washington, D.C., or it shouldn't be done in Madison, but in the local communities in which people live. Now, the couple of things we do to make sure we stay connected to what low-income people need. One is a needs assessment survey that we do every 3 years, and I have some information on that I'll share with you in a minute. But it's very important also in the structure of community action, not only to have that low-income voice, but the voice of our public sector. And so our board, in addition to 1/3 low-income reps, we have 1/3 that are county board representatives as well. And it's designed to help cement that partnership between our organization and, in this case, county government. The 1/3 of our board members represent the community at large. And so we try to fill those seats with people who bring expertise that makes our board stronger. But we have our representation on the board, our board from Waushara County include a couple of folks here tonight, Mr. Weddy and Mrs. Krantz, and then also Lou Rowley. Many of you might remember her, longtime Human Services Director, and Fred Gellerup. Again, I can't imagine there's too many people in Waushara County that don't know Fred. So we're very, very blessed to have those folks guiding us in terms of our work. All of these community action agencies have 7 responsibilities, and they're outlined here, and they're in the handout that I've given you, but probably the most visible in our communities are our services, so that's really what I'm going to focus on tonight. So among those, well, I'm going to back up for a second, just again, not that far, sorry. The next one, there we go. I mentioned we were created back in '66, and initially CAP Services only served Marquette, Waushara, and Portage counties, and then we were designated later by Wapaka County and Outagamie County to also be their community action agency. When Lester helped create us, our original name was actually the Central Wisconsin Economic Opportunity Committee, and it's hard to put on a business card. So no, I'm just kidding. We did change it to CAP Services because as a network, that was more identifiable for a lot of folks. But I mentioned in our work, we really want to stay and understand our communities. And so I just put together a little information that ties back to our community here in Waushara County, the census, a slight drop between 2010 and 2012 in overall households, but fewer kids by percentage than the state. The children under 5 in Waushara County represent 4.8% of the county's population, while in Wisconsin, kids represent 6.1%. And then conversely, we do have a higher percentage of persons over 65. And so sometimes that helps us guide the work we're doing because the needs of those groups will be a little bit different. But clearly a large and growing Hispanic or Latino population. Our number of grads, high school grads, is slightly lower than the state average, and we've done some programming and offered some services here that really help try to level that playing field. Our Fresh Start program that we ran for many years helped people who didn't have a diploma get one. Our Head Start program secured some funding to help those parents get their GED or HSCD, simply because it's going to be pretty hard to get employment if you don't have that basic credential. Again, median income is a little bit lower than the state. Poverty rate right around the same level. But these are all things that are important to us as we look at our work. I mentioned that we do a needs assessment survey every 3 years. We not only target low-income households, but we also survey our staff and our community partners because we want their feedback as well. But it does really help us design these strategies. So in the last survey, these were the top 10 needs identified by families living here in the county in terms of helping them be more self-sufficient. I don't think you'll be shocked when you look at the list. Inability to save money, probably because they're not making enough money. But whenever you have expenses like car repairs, medical, dental, heating, all of those things can really take a family that might be on the brink of, being able to pay their bills to send them into a place where they just can't take care of themselves. Now, the CAP Board of Directors takes our needs results from all of our 5 counties, and then they take the top 10, have us do some research for them, and then they pick the top 5 to work on. And so the top 5 they selected, you will see a theme: jobs, jobs, jobs. Obviously, it's a good paying job, a full-time job, a job with benefits is really going to make a difference for a family. And so those are among our priorities when we look at ways to do new things or do more of what we do to help people with that. Car maintenance and insurance is another one. Inability to pay bills. One of the programs we offer here that really can help a lot with that is our free tax assistance program. I think last year we served 200 plus households, and the average return overall, I think, for families approached $2,000. So when you take somebody's making $12,000 a year and you throw another $2,000 in, it really makes a difference. Sometimes the families we help don't even realize they're eligible for a credit. They just think they haven't paid enough in. So, I mean, we have people crying sometimes when they hear just how much they're going to get back. But hopefully it does make it more possible for them to pay their bills. We have other strategies as well that I think help with the jobs part. Our business assistance program. We have a workforce training program that helps people train for better paying jobs. In looking at how this boils down here in Waushara County, I just wanted to hit some highlights. I mentioned our skills enhancement program. This is the program that helps people go back to school part-time so that when they get that training, they can get a better job. Over the time since we started this program, it started in Outagamie County first, and then we expanded to Portage, Waupaca, and Waushara. And this was at the time, you'll remember, when W-2 first came out, and counties were actually seeing W-2 profits. But they were charged with reinvesting that money back in their community. And so actually Waupaca, Portage, and Waushara all took some of those profits, funded CAP services so we could get these programs going, and we've been able to find funding to keep them alive and well. But overall, over all those years, when people finish their training and they get better paying jobs, their annual income has gone up an average of $11,000. So that's a big difference for families. And over all those years, they're probably, in 70% of the cases, getting access to employer-sponsored health insurance. And that's a big deal. If any of you are paying premiums, you know how just expensive that can be. So in jobs, there is one way in which we impact. Another is businesses. This is actually a business over in Plainfield, Sanchez Salsa. Our staff helped this woman with her business plan, and we also provided some financing so she could get her business started. So just one example, over years there have been many. I think one of our very first business loan clients was JL Transport. Up just a little bit to the north. They came to us because they wanted a boat so they could harvest duckweed, grow the duckweed, and then in turn sell it to major corporations that had ponds or golf courses, whatever the case might be. So my predecessor, Carl Panasic, still remembers how skeptical he was about a guy who came around in April and wanted a loan to buy a boat. But clearly that was one of the best things that we could have done because he's very, very successful. But in terms of business, we also have our Capsule Center here in town, and so we offer below market rents for small businesses getting started. We also have some commercial light manufacturing space on our facility on Pickle Row and up at Oak Ridge. In addition to that, help with staff for business assistance and our loan fund. Another impact that we think is important, I kind of alluded to it earlier, is our free tax assistance program. 210 families served the last tax season, and with all of our counties, $1.2 million came back in the community. Now, some of those folks might have gone and paid for their services, but we think they would have lost as much as $60,000 in preparation fees. So even if you say, they'd have got the money anyway, it would have been less because of what they had to pay. We just, in fact, hired a new staff person who's going to be organizing our program here in Waushara County, and I just heard we hired, I don't even know her name, but we're expecting only to grow that program this next year. So we want to pump more money back here in the Waushara County economy. Another way in which we try to make an impact is housing, and that is affordable housing, again, primarily focused on low-income people. And you'll see there's a number of housing projects we have within the county, some targeted at seniors, some for people with special health care needs, and certainly some family units. We also have developed a couple of subdivisions over the last several years here in the city, both Dayfo, which I think some of you have been a long time know that was a school site and was contaminated. I think it was actually Mr. Van Loon called up Carl Panasic one day and he said, well, what are you going to do about it? We got to clean the site up and do something better. And so we did that and developed some single-family homes. But in addition, we also provide weatherization assistance, especially in aging housing stock. I grew up in a farmhouse, and the insulation was crunched up newspaper. They just didn't insulate those homes very well, and so we have plenty of that housing stock, and our goal is to really make them much more energy efficient because it puts more money back in people's pockets when they don't have to spend it on utilities. But we also help people with financing to buy homes or fix up their homes. Here, I had to include another picture. This is the ribbon cutting for our Berlin Senior Housing Project. Now, I know Berlin sits on the county line, but you might recognize Bernadette and Dennis. They're both in that picture, but a wonderful resource for people who want to stay in their community or close to their community as they age instead of having to sell their homes because they can't take care of them or they can't afford the property taxes. But another big piece of what we do, I see Dawn is here tonight, is a lot of work around family support. Our staff are in the county and very involved in things like the Child and Family Partners Group. We do provide some parenting education. We contract with the county to do some intensive in-home work, as well as all of our domestic violence services, and then Head Start and Early Head Start. We just made some shifts in our Head Start and Early Head Start program, so we will now have Early Head Start services here in the county. That's new just in the last couple of months. But getting pregnant moms in the program, helping them, take good care of themselves, eat well, it helps for a healthier birth. But then, a lot of child development, early brain development happens when parents are their first educator, and so those programs really reinforce that. And just in closing, just some information on how to find out more about CAP, whether through our website or our Facebook page. But I did bring along for you this holder that really gives you a sense of all of our programs. But really what I wanted to do was make sure you understood we're here to help you and your constituents, so never hesitate to give me a call or any of our contacts, because that's what we want to do is help. And in closing, not only thank you from me, but certainly all of those folks that we serve. You have been providing some support for CAP services through your county budget now for a number of years, and we've used that to leverage other money, start new programs. I know 1 year, or for a few years, you were very supportive of our welding program and other things as well. So you deserve a big, big thank you, because you've been wonderful partners too. But if anyone has questions, otherwise I know you have a long agenda and I'm ready to.
Is Fresh Start still operating? Or?
It is. We operate it now in Wapaka, but we do have young people from northern Waushara County participating. The money to fund that program, it got very, very competitive. And so sometimes it's the census information that help make our applications more competitive. And we had just about filled up the Sandcrest subdivision that we created largely for Fresh Start. So we really needed more lots too. And those were hard to come by within the city. You just don't have any infill lots. Or you didn't at the time we made the shift. But we do provide services, and some of our youth still come from Waushara County. Any other questions? Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. Now we have the Child Support Annual Report.
Okay, hi everybody. Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, here's our organizational chart. We have 3 specialists in our office. The director, the corporation counsel for the county serves as our legal counsel. We are overseen by the Bureau of Child Support. They manage the child support program in Wisconsin, and even above them is the Office of Child Support Enforcement. That's on the federal level. So they are in charge of providing policy support. They determine our funding allocations, and the county levy picks up the remaining part that's not provided by general purpose revenue, matching funds from the federal government, performance incentive, etc. Okay. A little bit about what we do. We're not just a collection agency. We do establish paternity, also known as legal fatherhood. We need to make sure that every child has a father's name on the birth certificate. And there's a lot of important things that go along with these rights to entitlements for the child: Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, pension, tribal enrollment, inheritance, a lot of things that people don't always think about. In addition to that, family history for some medical issues that could come down the road, heart problems, cancers, access to private health insurance that a father might have, financial support, and the rights of a father to have custody rights and placement rights for the child. So a lot of things that people don't understand is if there's not a father's name on the birth certificate, that gentleman could not go and try to get rights to make decisions for the child or the placement of the child until his name's legally on the birth certificate. So we assist parties in doing that. Excuse me. And we get referrals if someone's receiving public assistance, or somebody can just apply for our services, and that could be a mother or a father. Could say, hey, I would like your services, and they can just fill up an application, and we can assist them in doing so. Okay. Court orders for child support and medical support. So once paternity is established, we would request a child support order, medical support order, and repayment of costs and fees associated with a court case. Placement of the child, private health insurance coverage, and income is all factored in when we determine a financial support obligation, if appropriate. Wisconsin courts use a percentage of income standard. So basically what it says is that Both parents share their income with a child, and a child should not be adversely affected just because they're not residing together. And we use several methods in calculating, but based on if there's split placement or shared placement, low-income payers, if they're on Social Security disability, high-income payers. Okay. Collection of child support. Income withholding is automatic by law. Someone can, if they're employed, they can't choose to have them pay on their own unless they're self-employed or unemployed. They can pay through the Child Support Collections Trust Fund in Milwaukee. We do not receive any funds here in our office. We would route them through to the trust fund in Milwaukee. But we can withhold child support from wages, unemployment benefits, Social Security, workers' compensation, and pension benefits. Some enforcement tools that are automatic behind the scenes. We don't have to do anything with these. Interception of tax refunds if someone's behind in their child support of at least $150 for a state tax refund or $500 for a federal tax refund. They're automatically certified, and we would get those funds if they were eligible for a refund. We are generally second in line behind the federal government if someone's behind in their taxes. Otherwise, we are next in line usually. Denial of passports, so if their arrears are at least $2,500, they could not obtain a passport or renew their passport without contacting us and paying off their child support. So that prevents them from going on these lavish vacations and owing money. Liens, we usually deal with this a lot. There's liens on vehicles or mortgages, and we can collect from that and negotiate a lien repayment. Enforcement warning letters, that is generated by the state, and after 2 letters, if we are given a trigger to look at the case for some enforcement. Interest, that is currently 0.5% per month, and that changed in April. It used to be 1% per month. So, okay, some enforcement that we can initiate on our own. We can increase an income withholding up to 50% of an obligation to collect on arrears. We look at that case-by-case basis, but we don't need a court action to do that. Account seizure, we can get notifications from some banks, and if they have a pension out there that we can collect from and they're not paying, we wouldn't do that if they were paying, but if they weren't paying, well, we have collected from pensions and bank accounts before. License suspension, that is, they give, there is a due process to that, so we would send out 2 notices warning them that if they don't start paying or enter into an alternative payment plan, we could prevent them from getting their driver's license, or actually would be suspended, prevent them from getting their hunting and fishing licenses, or suspending their professional licenses. And we can pick and choose if we want to let them have and keep their driver's license, but prevent them from having, being able to go out and fish and hunt. The next would be a contempt of court action, and if the court finds that the parent has had the ability to pay the child support and did not, the court can find a parent in contempt. They generally order a jail sentence, but they set purge conditions to which to avoid going to jail. And then we monitor that in our agency, and then would let the court know if they're not fulfilling those obligations. And in our county, they get a notice and have 5 days to respond, requesting a hearing to appear in front of the judge and tell why they haven't paid. And if they don't respond, then there would be a warrant for their arrest. Criminal non-support referral, that's our last resort. That means we've exhausted all means of collection. The arrears are greater than $5,000, and there's been time periods of at least 120 days without payment. Like I said, that's our last resort. Okay. What we do is important. Child support and health insurance orders reduce the need for public assistance. When someone's employed, we check and see if there's a private health insurance available through the employer for the children. That can reduce the need for Badger Care. It can maybe even eliminate the need for the Badger Care in Wisconsin. So oftentimes it could be that someone has health insurance and then Badger Care would be a secondary. That still reduces the need for the public to provide the support. Child support collected also determines the state aid amount, such as food share, reducing the need, and it makes families more independent. And we also are reporters of public assistance fraud. We are often the first to know if someone's in the home or out of the home, which affects their income eligibility. So we work hand in hand with the Economic Support Office, letting them know what's the household composition is like, and letting them know if there's a private health insurance available or if someone's employed, because that's not always reported. Okay. The numbers for our county, we work on a federal fiscal year, so we work from October 1st till September 31st of every year for our funding numbers when it's looked at by the state. Our caseload as of 9/30 was 1,157 cases. That's pretty average for us throughout the years. I haven't seen any increase or decrease, major. There are 4 measures. So there is a goal of 80% on each measure. The court order rate and the paternity establishment rate are usually very typically easily obtained. You'll see in the paternity establishment there's more than 100%. And it's kind of goofy how that figures, but it has to do with the fiscal year being how it is. So you'll have cases that maybe started in one year and then it ends. So you have more cases that got established and are there. So the last 2 are the most difficult for counties to get the goal of 80%. It is attainable. We're working our way there. I don't think our numbers are too bad. The good thing is that the state does have a 5th measure, which means that for excellence and improvement, in the last 2 years, we've improved in our arrears collections. So we are getting more funding because we've increased. So I'm hoping that we'll continue to do that, collect the back support that's owed to families, and to help them out with that. Okay. Goals. Continue to work with the courts and other departments for efficient processes. We'll look for ways to improve our child support collections and arrears collections. We'll try to increase the health insurance obtained by participants, keep checking with the employers, seeing if there's private health insurance out there. Improving customer service. I think there's always room for improvement on customer service. And lastly, we'll be scanning some closed files into our paperless program and eliminating some of the storage needs. But if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. Otherwise, I thank you for having me.
Questions for Kim? Kim, on that your first slide,
yes.
You said you do the paternity. Who initiates that? I mean, does the father come in and ask you, or who initiates?
Well, if someone's receiving public assistance, such as Badger Care is the most, frequent one, we'll get a referral from the economic support, and when we would initiate. Now, if someone's not on any assistance, a mother or a father could come into our agency as long as they live in our county and apply for paternity services, child support services. So, okay. You're up.
Okay, next we have the Veteran Service Office Annual Report.
Good evening. Bill Rosenau with Sheriff County Veteran Services. All right, I could stand here and read you my report, go through a whole bunch of numbers. That would be boring for both of us. And it would kind of defeat the purpose of me writing a report. I am going to highlight some key numbers throughout the presentation, but I'm not going to sit here and just read the report to you, so I hope you don't mind. All right, the good stuff. Our outreach efforts are definitely working. Throughout the year, I go to the meal sites at least 2, sometimes 3 times a year. I conduct monthly visits to Red Granite Correctional, multiple speaking engagements, articles in the Argus, just trying to get business in. And boy, it's been working. I look at the last 4 years, and I've added 650 new records to the office. When I average that out with vacations and stuff, it's about 1 2/3 veterans a week. The 2/3 veterans, I usually start getting them on a disability claim right away. Oddly enough, it's not current era veterans that are coming into the office. They're still, I think I've cracked that egg finally, but it's actually World War II, Korean War vets, and mainly Vietnam vets still popping out of the woodwork. You'd think after 5 years here I would have met them all, but every week we get a couple new. Just amazing. All right, the economic impact. In 2013, my total office budget was about $172,000. About $154,000 of that was county tax levy. So for the low price of $154,000, we realized through federal benefits about $14 million into Waushara County. I can't take credit for all of that $14 million, but definitely the bulk of it. If you start looking at the VA claims process where most of that money is coming from, it's pretty complex, and most veterans, when they start down that road by themselves, usually get me involved pretty quickly. The reputation of the office is growing. Why is that good? Word of mouth is the best advertisement. You may know that a lot of the Vietnam-era veterans are very distrustful of anything that smacks government, and getting a good reputation with that crew just brings more into the office and extends them the benefits their service earned them, and makes them more financially stable, offers them some help, and really helps them economically. Automation, we're finally beginning to verge with the VA's paperless initiative. I'm going to be talking about that ad nauseum tonight. The VA about 2 years ago decided that they were going to go paperless with their claims. We're talking about the second largest bureaucracy in the nation going paperless. Yeah. That'll be interesting. They've actually got a system in place internally that's sort of paperless, but they haven't built a front end for anybody to actually access it except for their internal employees. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about it, but we've been making some pretty huge strides in the ability to set ourselves up for whatever their paperless environment looks like. In 2013, we gained access to their SEP program, Stakeholders Enterprise Portal. We gained access to their VBMS system. We have set up now a kiosk for their e-benefits system. We have changed to a new internal veterans benefits management system that is on the leading edge of their paperless initiative. They still haven't decided which way they're going to go with it, but we've got all the bases covered. Whichever way they go, we're prepped. So we're good there. And in 2013, we came in under budget again. Next slide. A lot of folks don't realize in order for us in the CVSO office to prosecute claims to the VA, we have to maintain some pretty stringent standards in accreditation. We're actually accredited by the Office of General Counsel. And last year we successfully got accredited, both Dawn and myself, with all the veteran service organizations that have a presence in the VA regional office in Milwaukee. That's pretty important because that means that any veteran walking in that has been working a claim through Milwaukee, so any veteran in the state of Wisconsin, we can instantly pick up and start running with their benefits package. I'm moving up the CVSO food chain. In 2013, I was voted into the second vice president position for the County Veteran Service Officers Association of Wisconsin. I was on their legislative committee, the chair of their resolutions committee. Yeah, I think that's about it. And yeah, a couple other things. But why is that important? As we progress through a more complicated claims system and federal money gets a little tighter, we're actually able, through those associations, to influence both state and federal benefits. We've had a couple of times we've sent our legislative chair out to D.C. To talk directly with Congress on some key benefits changes that we either wanted to support or defeat, and we've been successful so far. Wisconsin, believe it or not, is viewed from the National County Veteran Service Officers Association as a model for the nation. So this type of involvement really pays some dividends. Last year, 2013, we did meet all the VA's training administrative requirements, and I mentioned we're poised to meet the paperless claims fielding. You can imagine the VA is very guarded with their information, and gaining access to their systems and gaining their trust and their accreditation. They throw a whole bunch of training requirements at us. We do financial training, medical training. You just could not believe the levels of training that they require us to meet every year to maintain our accreditations. All right, last year we did, in 2013, we did revamp the office budget. This was to lend some transparency to, and to clearly delineate the expenditure of state and county dollars. This became really important. We have a, how do I put this tactfully, a deteriorating relationship with the state agency, Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. And that is where about 9% of my budget comes from. They started an audit program because there were a couple of outspoken CVSOs who made no bones about the fact that they disagreed with some of that department's leadership. And they really came back and said, okay, well, we're going to attack your grants. They audited us. A couple of the more outspoken CVSOs actually lost their grants. We didn't, but one of the things I did to prep for that was clearly separate the expenditure of those funds so that when they did come in with an audit, it was a very clean trail. All right, so where we're at right now, we have basically in the office, we've set the foundation in training. Both Dawn and myself are accredited to the same level, so we doubled the work power in the office, the ability to prosecute claims for veterans. And as of 2014, now our focus is maintaining that foundation and actually growing the knowledge base. Our benefits management system is on the leading edge of the VA's Digits to Digits initiative. That's where I can sit down in my office, type up a claim, hit a button, and feed the VA system directly. As of this morning, actually, the VA granted Vetrospec, which is the program I use, permission to start with some trial claims, actual claim processes. Those are happening over in Michigan. In a meeting last week with the VA regional director, we actually opened that up to Wisconsin. We've got a couple of counties in Wisconsin that are going to go live with that in the near future. We're awaiting issuance of our PIV cards. 2 years ago, I had a chance to meet with the Director of Compensation Services in D.C. He basically promised us the same access to VA systems that VA employees have. And the key to that is this little PIV card. It's been a couple of years in the making, but this year we finally started getting those in the CVSO community. Both Dawn and I are one bureaucratic step away from having ours issued. We're just waiting on the national agency check to show up in the VA's computer system, and we're there. And looks like we're on track right now to come in under budget again. Probably not the 8,000 we were under budget in 2012, but I'm sorry, in 2013. But 2014 looks probably $3 to $5 grand under budget. That really depends on the utilization of the grant funds. With the cold winter, I've kind of reserved that, the commission grant to assist with heating bills, and the utilization of transportation services through the Department of Aging. We subsidize veterans' rides. So depending on how those go through the next couple of months, yeah, we're looking at probably coming in under budget yet again. And next. All right, I mentioned that we've already got the foundation set. Last week we started, I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago we started actually actively seeking out education opportunities to expand the knowledge base in the office to better prosecute claims. We're doing that through the Veterans Law Group, National Veterans Legal Services Program, the Journal of the American Medical Association, National Academies Press. I'm a subscriber to all of those. 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to sit on a webinar with the Veterans Law Group. That was a program designed to how to successfully argue or defeat VA medical examinations that we don't agree with. And in the last 2 weeks, I've actually used 7 of their arguments in the appellate process to prosecute claims for veterans at a higher level. So it's over the next couple of years, I think you're going to be seeing an expansion of the knowledge base in the office that's going to be pretty incredible. I'm actually going to be seeking accreditation as a certified veterans advocate. This is a step up above, normal accreditation. Certified veterans advocate is actually authorized to go down and represent a veteran at the VA regional office level in actual hearings. It's a pretty long educational row to hoe. I'll tell you. Even before you can apply, it takes 5 years of prosecuting claims. I just hit that 5 years this month. And then we are actually trained by Board of Veterans Appeals judges. It's at least 60 hours of that training over the course of a couple of years, and a major project that impacts veterans nationally. So I'm looking forward to that process. We're improving the relevancy of the association. As I'm moving up through the food chain, actually sitting down with some pretty key folks. Last week I had the opportunity to sit down with the director of the VA regional office in Milwaukee, and through that discussion, the CVSO Association of Wisconsin is now elevated to a veteran service organization level, where the VA will communicate directly with our offices and not through intermediaries. This gives us instant access to internal changes that affect veterans. We have extended a hand out to the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs to try to get that same relationship going with that state agency, but they were waiting on the election results before they reached a hand back, so should be hearing from them in the next couple of weeks. In the paperless claims environment, I mentioned that the VA is positioning itself. We'll see how that pans out. I think you all know when a major system goes paperless, really what it does is it lowers the paper to the lowest level. And guess where I'm at? Yeah, I'm where the rubber meets the road, so all the paper's being dropped down to me. If we can move on. That brings up some of the challenges we face. The complexity of claims, they definitely demand more time, research, and specialized knowledge. World War II Korean War vets, you usually saw 1 or 2 contentions. They were shot. They have residuals of a gunshot wound and and scarring. There's your claim. Agent Orange exposed veterans, Vietnam. The average on those claims are about 7 contentions because of the long-term health effects. So we're looking now at coronary artery disease, diabetes, Parkinson's disease, all the secondary conditions. Normally about 7. The exposures that our current crop of veterans suffered, OEF, OIF, Gulf War veterans, they're averaging 14 contentions. And these are processes that are still being researched. So the level of medical knowledge, medical research, the opinions required to support a successful claim are all getting much more complicated. That, and we only have half-formed laws to back up the claims process. It's getting pretty interesting. My library is growing by leaps and bounds. I mentioned that the VA is still working on the front end for their stakeholders. That means that there's constantly shifting requirements. I really don't know what form of data they want in their paperless environment. Do I need to feed them optical character recognition? Do I need searchable documents? What I scan locally ends up being a piece of evidence on their end. So I have to make sure it meets their requirements, and we don't know what those are yet. And I mentioned that they have 3 different front ends that they're working with. We don't know which one they're going with yet. Again, we're prepared. All of these are speed bumps. I don't see any showstoppers here. Continuing relationship problems with select CVSOs and WDVA is basically poisoning the well. We have a state agency that is resistant to our input at this point, and at worst openly hostile with some of the other counties. I've still got a pretty good relationship with folks down there, and being in the state leadership team, we're working on repairing that relationship. And I can go into detail in the history of that if you're interested, but probably not in this meeting. One of the other big hurdles I mentioned is turning paper records into digital records. I've got about 9,000 files in my office going back decades. And not knowing what data system the VA wants yet, I'm loath to digitize them right now because it might not be the right one. Busy juggling some ideas on how we can actually logistically make that digital transition happen. And that brings us to the next slide. Whichever way we go with it, it's probably going to take me getting another person in the office, at least temporarily. So in the upcoming years, once the VA finally makes up their mind, I may be coming back to this body asking at least for a temporary hire or summer help or something. I'm looking at the differences between hiring it out. I think right now it's between 15 and 17 grand to have somebody come into the office and scan it. But again, it's dependent on what kind of data product we want on the other end. And bottom line is it takes a person to put it in the scanner. With the complexity of claims and the changing rules environment in the VA, it's going to be interesting to see if Dawn and I can do that ourselves. All right. I did. If you are interested in all those numbers, I could read that report to you if you'd like. I think I put together a pretty good product for the annual report. If you have any questions on it, I am always subject to your questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Bill? You want to talk about this a little bit?
Oh, I'd be happy to. That's a couple of years ago, I was asked to put together a report on veterans charities, and we've got out there. We've got the Better Business Bureau, Charity Watchdog, Charity Watch, Federal Trade Commission. These are bodies that are tasked with keeping an eye on veterans charities, and because of they're outside of the VA sphere, I basically just plagiarized the heck out of the Better Business Bureau. They're paid and they have the time to do that. So what you have in front of you is as of June of 2014, the Better Business Bureau's report card on veterans charities. It's got a red, green, yellow. Red means that they either didn't report to the Better Business Bureau or failed utterly. There is a typo on the first line. You'll see that I have 95% and 40%. It's actually 95 and 4, not 40. But it's if you're looking at giving to charities, this is a good reference. My advice, as always, is give local and give often. I've got a fund in my office. 100% of it goes to help veterans locally. If you want to give to one of the big boys out there, that sends you stickers all the time, feel free. But again, 100% of the commission funds help veterans right here in Waushara County.
Thank you very much, and thanks for doing that report too. It's great. All right, next we're going to do this really exciting implements of husbandry.
Very exciting, very exciting. Last month or prior, I passed out a 4 or so page pamphlet, kind of giving the nuts and bolts of Act 377, which is a new IOH law. Instead of saying implements of husbandry all the time, I'm going to say IOH. And we do have the PowerPoint that hopefully will clear up some more questions. Please ask questions as soon as you have them, if you have them, instead of waiting till the end, because it might be appropriate. There's a lot to this new law. I've been to trainings. Our association has done meetings, and every time I go to a new one, I pick up something else. It's very complicated and very, with all the exceptions for this tractor and not that tractor. If you guys get it this first night, I'll be very proud of you, because I still don't get it, and I've been dealing with it for a year. So, or that might say something bad about me, but we won't go there. The reason why we need to address this, number one, the law says we have to. When we get to those 6 options, 4 out of the 6 need county board action. A and F do not, but you would have, your action is to tell me that we're going to go with A or F or B, C, D, or E. So you're going to have to act on, no matter what we do, you have to tell us what you want. But to do ordinance action, 4 of them needed and 2 do not. As you can see up there, tractor sizes and machinery is getting bigger. We all know that. We need, I'm the highway guy. I'm going to speak like the highway guy tonight, not the ag guy. Ken has come, and he is willing to answer any questions that I can't. He's been to as many or more of these trainings as I have, so he's pretty well versed in the law too, and he'd be happy to answer questions if you have any directly for him. Obviously, we need to maintain the roads. We need to balance the ag needs. As they started this, what started this whole thing was a manure hauler got pulled over with in excess of 130,000 pounds gross vehicle weight when you were allowed 80,000. Keep in mind the law was 80,000 gross and 20,000 per axle for ag. There was a very big misconception that ag has been exempt from the weight limit laws. Again, that's a misconception. They had 5 statewide public meetings on this, and some of them got ugly because of that reason. And I heard a definition of a compromise, and this is what this law is supposed to be, a compromise between the road people and the ag people, and the compromise is where neither side is happy with the results. And that's about what it is here. We wanted more, they wanted more, and we ended up with this. So this is what we have to deal with. The maintain local control, you hear the Towns Association talk about that, and the County Highway Association and the WCA. Some of these options maintain more local control than others, and we'll talk about that when we get there. What actually changed? Everything. There's new weight limits, there's new size limits, there's new definitions, there's lighting and marking requirement, new rules of the road, options and permits. So it is a total revamp of what was out there before. Here's some examples of different IOHs, and you can see how big some of them are and how weird some of them look, but that's just some examples there. I better follow along because I have notes here. That is the new definition of a IOH. And you see that it says exclusively used in the conduct of agriculture. There are other CMV ag vehicles. It's a commercial motor vehicle, new definition, a semi-hauling manure down the road to a transfer station or to a field is not an IOH, but if it pulls out into the field and spreads it, it is an IOH. So the same truck can be two different things at two different times, and that's part of the complexity of the new law. But that's the new definition there. Okay, this is the easy one, Category A. It's the farm tractor. Category B is the hard one, and this is the one that most of these options that we're going to talk about have to deal with. And the reason for that is, excuse me, the new weight limits, again, deal with axle weights, increased axle weights, and increased gross vehicle weights. And these Class B, which are like your harvesters and your combines, normally don't exceed the weight limits, the gross weight limits, but with that big head on, when you get some of these 22-foot wide heads on them, they're already over the axle weight. They're come right out of the factory overweight. And some of the options will deal with those. You can opt in, opt out, say yes, say no, so on and so forth. So we'll get into that later. But the Category B is the one that will cause us the most headaches. And the Category C is again, what you see there is a definition, an IOH pulling an IOH, but it is now a Category C. And this does not include, and that's where we talked about an agricultural commercial motor vehicle earlier, a CMV, and there's a definition. Oh, my eyes are going crazy here.
No, honestly, I wasn't even touching it.
You're just trying to get me, Deb. I know you are. So those are the some of the definitions of things that are not included in the new definition of IOH. Okay, Deb. Length. They did not deal with width or height, but they did deal with length in the new law. And you can see the requirements there. A single one can't be...
Oh, seriously, I am not touching that.
All right, is there a ghost in here?
Seriously.
So the length they dealt with, they are telling you what's up on the screen is what we're allowed to do without a permit. We'll be talking about the permits a little later, but the longer you get, the slower you got to go. And if you're over that 100-foot, if you're a 3-vehicle train, for example, you have to have a permit or request a permit. I will say, most generally, when you request a permit, it's not automatic that you get one. We have the ability to say no, and there's a couple exceptions. But when it keeps talking about permits, they're out there, but they don't have to be issued.
Come on. Why is it doing that? I don't think I do. I'm doing from beginning. All right. Sorry about that.
And the PowerPoint that I passed out is very small. That's why we're hoping the screen works, because it's hard to read on the paper. The nuts and bolts of the new law, again, is when I said keep in mind the 80,000 gross and the 20,000 axle weight, we are now at 23,000 axle and 92,000 gross. So the law gave the farmer the ability, or the ag community, the ability to increase the weights on the roads. Now, with that said, just because you have an IOH doesn't mean you can go right up to the 92,000 or the 23,000. I'm going to pass this chart around, and what this thing does is all the red means bad. So they're giving you an example of different IOHs, and it's very hard to read too, but if you take a look at it, it tells you what the axle and the gross weight are when they're empty, and then it tells you what they are when they're loaded. You can see there's a lot more red, and the red means that it meets the federal bridge formula, which is the engineering behind the weight limits, and red is no. And then is the bridge impact and the pavement impact. Is it low, medium, or high? And red is high and green is low. So some of these are okay when they're empty and loaded. Some of them are not okay right out of the gate without anything on them at all. That the impact that they're doing on the roads and on our bridges is negative. So that, again, is hard to read, but where I was going with those 92,000 and 23,000, you can't get that just because you have a tractor pulling a manure spreader. You still have to have the proper number of axles and the proper spacings of axles to what we call axle out that gross vehicle weight. Just like semis, there are 5 axles. Most semis are 5 axles, and they have to be properly spaced and the weight distributed. I think it's 8% has to be on each axle of the gross weight, and I don't remember that. But so you can't automatically get 92,000. You have to be able to axle that out. You have to have the proper number and the spacing, and that's where it's going to be tough for law enforcement, because you'll physically have to take that IOH train, if it's a manure spreader being hauled by a tractor, and measure the axle weights or axle distances and find out how much weight is on it, and then go to the chart and see if they're legal to haul that. So it's a tough law to police. Okay, done. Potato harvester. An empty potato harvester is exempt from the axle weights. Just something they came up with, didn't go to any of the meetings or the hearings, but the gross weight limit applies. And again, it's probably one of those machines that can axle out even if it wanted to, the way they're manufactured today. So I think this was part of the compromise. Okay, Deb.
Back one and see if that stops it.
Go ahead and back up.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm doing that.
One step back.
I got to talk faster. Oh, look at the time, right? Okay, the category B. This is where most of these options are going to fall in, or some of them. Category B, the law states there's no axle weight limits. One of the options will require it. We have that local control, or that ability to adopt an option that makes them abide by the axle limits. Gross vehicle limit applies, kind of like the potato harvester, but we can't make an option or pick an option to make the potato harvester legal. That's just in the law. There's no weight limit, axle or GVW, gross vehicle weight, for incidental travel. So they can go from field to field or field to farm within a half mile and not pay attention to the law at all, or the new law, or the new weight limits. They can do that. So they have that ability to move if they're within, and this is category B now. This isn't the manure haulers or the 3-vehicle trains and things like that, the category C's. This is just B that has allowed the incidental travel. The Class B posting is we have one road in Waushara County that's posted Class B, and that's County U. Does everybody know where County U is? It's a mile long. It's up in the northeast part of the county. It goes off of County A, just a little bit off of 49. and it goes up into Wapaka County. Wapaka posted theirs Class B and asked us to post our mile stretch. Years ago, I went to the committee with that, and they okayed it. Class B means that you're only allowed 60% or 65% of the gross vehicle weight of the road, which is 80,000 or was. So if we have a road posted Class B, these Category Bs can ignore the posting. But they have to obey the seasonal or special weight posting. So in other words, when I post the roads for the spring thaw, nothing trumps that sign. I can issue a permit like I do for a septic tank hauler who has to go pump a septic out, or the other reasons that we issue permits during the seasonal weight restrictions, spring thaw. But this new law does not trump that or special weight postings. The statutes allow, 348.17, allow me to post roads for various reasons. And bridge postings, we do have, I think, 3 bridges in Waushara County that are posted at 80 ton, so, or 80,000, 40 ton. So they would not be able to cross these bridges. The law does not trump the bridge postings either. Okay, Deb. That is a reason why this law is starting to come in. That's a little bit too big of equipment for the bridge, apparently. That doesn't happen all the time, but it was just a picture I found in one of the PowerPoints, and it looks pretty mangled there. So, okay. No fee permits. I got to find my notes. I don't have any for no fee. That's in the law. There will be, as with seasonal weight restriction permits, we just started this last season to charge a fee to cover some of our administrative costs. This law will not allow any fees charged for any of these permits. So although there'll be increased staff time if that's the route we go, there's going to be permits no matter what option you pick, but we're not allowed to charge anything. Okay, this is the hard part. What road can take what weight? This is a slide I plagiarized. I heard that word once by somebody here today. I think I heard it on the news a while back. I can't spell it, but I know what it means. This pretty much fits Waushara County. We have seasonal weight restrictions. We have bridge weight restrictions I just talked about. Our roads were built many years ago. Last month I came in and told you how we haven't reconstructed any roads for over 20 years. We're not built for 80,000 pounds, what the law reads. The science is out there, you guys, that says every vehicle that goes over your road takes away from the life of it. And the more that axle weighs, the more life is taken out, the deflection of the pavement. You know, I'm not an engineer, but the science is out there. We increase the weights. When you increase the weights, the increased weights go like this, but the damage goes, and there's another big word, exponentially, up in, I don't know how to explain that. The weights increase this much, but the damage increases that much. It's not an equal increase. So we're not built for our roads to last a long time with the weights that are on them now. And now the new law is giving them 92,000, which we'll have to live with. Part of the discussion with Highway Committee was even if we pick an option that we let the Category Bs go, what do you want me to do with the manure haulers? If the law just increased from 80,000 to 92,000, and they come in and ask for a permit for 100,000, my policy, unless I'm told by the county board or the committee, is to say no. The law has given them 12,000 more pounds, and 3,000 pounds per axle. This is giving the people the opportunity to become legal. And I say that because I don't think, because of misunderstanding of the law in the past, and because now this is to the forefront, the bubble has popped, I think Ken told me today on the phone, or burst. How did you word that, Ken? Yeah, the balloon has popped. Now it's out there. Everybody knows about it, and we have the ability to keep better track of it. So, where do we go? What do we do? That's my questions. Now we go to somewhere that my notes are out of order. The new law did not deal with width, did not deal with height. It dealt with weight, as we've talked about, and it dealt with length. Although they didn't deal with width or height, they came up with a lot of marking and lighting requirements that we don't need to deal with. It's just part of the law. It has nothing to do with the options or our policies. So I did not include any of it. There's a lot of different lighting and marking requirements that have come into the law. But it's something that you don't have to deal with. It's there. There's no options. There's no give and take. It is what it is. Now, we'll save this for last. That is the options that we need to deal with. But let's save that for last. And because it's real small on the PowerPoint, your last page has a full page, one of these, so that you can read it better. Okay, Deb. When I say option E recommended, this is another slide I used from another option. The Towns Association has recommended to their townships to go with option E. The County Highway Association has recommended E. I'm coming with the discussion through committee said to bring forth, per our discussion, option E and option F to talk about. I want to sway you to option F, and I'll explain when we start going over them. There was a small survey out among our neighboring counties, and half are in F and half are in E. So F is one that we can talk about. These are sample ordinances, which again we can brush through. My best buddy Ruth and I will be working together on these if we have to have one. And she's sitting on the edge of her seat waiting to do that. There are samples out there. There's lots of ones to pick from, so it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. They're out there for all the options, or for the ones we need them. And this is you can just go through all these. There's a lot of if-to, factos, and all that. Some frequently asked questions. We talked about the permit cost. We can't charge a cost. When do the no-fee permits go into effect? They're available now. They're on the DOT website. We're not, you can see January 1st is we have to have a form in place by January 15th, or January 1st, 2015. I believe, and this is something I have to check on, that I believe there's a permit that we're required, the DOT permit, we're required to use that one. I talked to the UW extension gal in Madison the other day who's been going around doing these presentations, and she says we have to use that one. I got to find that wording somewhere, but I'm not sure on that. So that'll be an easy thing. If we have to use one, we got one. We don't have to invent one either. How will no-fee permits application work for IOH and Ag CMB outside the size and weight envelope? DOT is doing it now, and so far they're saying no to every application or a permit for going overweight. The permit will list, say a farmer has 10 pieces of equipment that need a permit. He lists them all on the permit. It's usually an annual permit. We can go longer than annual. We can make it lifetime. They can modify it if they get new equipment. That's all things that have to be worked out. Again, just because we got to remember that just because there's a permit request does not mean there's a permit granted. Those are the things that will be under discussion. Why is the gross vehicle weight limit not sufficient? Why does a permit require axle weight and spacings? And this is a good thing to read here. Roads and bridges have to be designed, built, and maintained to carry heavy axle loads. The heavier the axle load, the greater the investment needed to build necessary roads and bridges. And that's where I was talking about that deflection in the pavement and the importance of axles and the spread of the axles. Generally, structures that are subjected to stresses as a result of bending due to heavy loads benefit from loads being distributed over larger areas that reduce the tendency for bending. Axle spacing, the spreading out of loads, is as important as axle weight in bridge design. A bridge is similar to thin ice on a pond. Walking on the ice concentrates a person's weight on the small area covered by the individual's feet, and the ice may break. Lying down, however, spreads the same weight over a much larger area, and the ice is less likely to break. So axle weights are important to the life of highways. Timeline for the permitting process, we have 6 weeks to respond. I can't imagine taking 6 weeks to respond to a permit, but the law gives us that. That would be rude. That would be a poor customer service if it took us 6 weeks to respond to a permit. And then if they amend the application, we have 5 more days, and if we don't respond within 10 days, it's permanently approved. And how long is it good for? Again, at least 1 year, but we can choose to make the permit last longer if we want. And the DOT's automatically renews. They have a permit process. They have a whole staff for permits for overweight, oversize. Everything's electronic. We have a permit for our semi that we haul our equipment around on, and it's automatically renewed. We have to pay our fee every year. They send us the bill, but there's not a lot of paperwork, and we can make this the same way if we'd like. All right, Deb. What if a maintaining authority denies the routes included in my no-fee permit application? There's a couple things to this. One, we have to give a good reason, and it has to be structurally based explanation. So if I said, got a permit to run overweight, I can say every road in the county isn't built to standards. Well, that's pretty general, and it probably could be challenged. I don't want to start saying that we're going to have to hire an engineer to go core all our roads and determine which ones are good and which ones are bad. It might come to that. We don't know where this is all going to end. But again, my stance as the highway guy standing in front of you is that the law just gave him 12 more thousand pounds. I think it would be unwise to start giving more weight and more weight and more weight. Category B, if we deny them a permit, we have to give them an alternate route. Well, that could include going on town roads to get to where they want to go, and now we got to start seeing what the town says about, or what option they've picked, and I don't feel comfortable making alternate routes on roads that we don't have the authority on, and we can't. It's still, the town still has that authority, but if you have a farm on a county highway and the only alternate route is on the county highway, they can't drive their category B through the back field to get to the next road. They got to go on that road, and again, we'll have a little more discussion on that, but my interpretation is that we don't really have too many roads that are going to take 100,000 pounds, and the science is out there, like I said before. Okay. The ag, again, we're going to the commercial ag. This is what we've talked about, that the maintaining authority, townships do their own thing, county does their own thing, state does their own thing. You can see here it says DOT created the application which will be used. And when I read statutes, and Ruth can correct me, it usually says shall, not should or will or what. So I'm guessing that we have to use the state's permit, but I'm not 100% sure on that. That's it? Okay, now let's go to that back page. I hate to take up more time, but this is important and it's needed, action needed. I will say that we don't have, although it's on the agenda later, we don't have to come up with something today. If we want to think about it or do something different, we still have the December meeting, but before your January meeting, we have to have something in place according to the law. I'll go over them, every one, even though we really want to focus on E and F as came out of committee, but we do need to look at them all right here tonight. The posting approach is A, and the A and F are the only ones that don't need county board action. You can see the permit, we must respond to permits, and we could give exceptions. But we may increase the road postings than what the law gave them, so we can post them for more. Option B is total opt-out, meaning you're going to ignore the law completely, let everybody do exactly what they want, when they want, where they want. There's no weight restrictions, but you must pass an ordinance or resolution to that effect. Option C is a partial opt-out, where you can set the weight limits above the weight table on all roads under your jurisdiction. If you look at B, it talked about weight and length, and C just talks about weight. And over to the right, they can run up to set limits without permit, subject to seasonal and special postings. Again, none of these permits are good to overrule our seasonal weight restrictions or any special postings that we have up, or bridge postings. Option D is a partial opt-out, which means we would designate certain roads that we would allow the overweight and overlength IOH. And then we'd have to set the limits. If you would go with option D, and C also, if you decide to go above the 92 or the 2392, you would have to put that in your ordinance and establish those limits. And then they could go on those designated roads, they could run those limits. I don't know how you would designate roads. That would be my issue for one and not the other. You would have to look at how the roads are built. Okay, this one can take it, that one can't take it, so on and so forth. To me, that would be a fairness issue. And again, I'm going to go back to that statement I made about 3 times. We've already given them 12,000. I think that's good enough. Category or E is the opt-in. This is more for the category B. All the other IOH, meaning the category A and category C, have to follow the 2392 weight table that the new law says, but we can require category B to follow that same table. If you remember on one of the slides, category B was exempt for the weight, the axle weight, the 23,000, but they weren't exempt for the 92,000, or they were exempt for the, in category B in the law, that combine can run over axle weight but has to abide by the gross weight. In option E, you'd pass an ordinance that the category B would have to follow the axle weight. So you're making the law more defined, meaning the category B has to meet that 23,000, but they can apply for a permit. And if we deny that permit, again, we have to give them an alternate route, which is very hard to do. Now, if you look at category F, it abides by Act 377, and Act 377 gives that category B the ability to run over the 23,000 axle weight, and then we don't have to write them a permit to do that. So the real difference between E and F is E will require all the category Bs that are over 23,000 pound axle to come and get a permit, which I believe we should give. They're running now, they're big combines, we can make them take their head off and move. Remember, they have that half-mile incidental travel, but I don't think that we want to stop that piece of equipment that's traditionally running the roads anyway. Do I like it? Not really, but I think that's a compromise that we can give by not stopping or requiring them to get permits. Number one, we can't find an alternate route most of the time anyway. So F would give us, would let them go as Act 377 originally or has written. They can run over axle. Category B only now, not A and C, not the manure haulers or the 3 gravity box train. It's just that Category B, which is the self-propelled combines and that sort of thing. So that's basically the only difference, or the big difference between the two. Category B and F, in option F, Category B still would have to apply for a permit to exceed 92,000, and there's not a lot of them out there unless they're running loaded. And again, that would be something as a highway guy would say, no, empty out into the truck and come empty back to wherever you're going. Yeah, you're over axle weight, and we're giving you that, but gross weight, no. But we could if we wanted to. So there's a lot of stuff here. Again, Ken set up a public meeting here in the demo room, and State Patrol came, and this Cheryl Skolas, who's the UW ag agent down there in Madison, who's given these presentations, and there was an attorney from somewhere, Towns Association there. We had a very poor attendance, and there was a few people there, but it was very poor. We can try that again if you want to talk to the ag community more. Again, we have a timeline, but we have another month at least if we want to do any more research. We can go back to committee and talk more about it. It's your call. Questions? To write the ordinance.
And even if you want us to bring back multiple ordinances, because you haven't decided which one, I need to know which one of these things you want us to write so that they're ready for December.
Correct.
So I can't write them at night.
Not while you're sitting here. All right. Complicated, yes. Bob.
Question for Ken. Has there been any comments or concerns from the canning companies over in the western part of the county?
I haven't heard anything from processing things.
Like the big pea harvesters come to mind. I don't know how they could take those headers off that. Maybe they can, but
I don't think you've got a problem with pea harvesters, Bob, and the reason is my background is processing as a field manager for over 20 years. I've been aware of this weight issue for over 20 years because when your self-propelled pea harvesters first came out, your PSC 156s, they only had a single drive axle on the front end. Now, if you see them going down the road, they've got two because they became aware, and there was some issues in the northeastern part of the state where this came to light. It wasn't broadly published, and a lot of law enforcement didn't get their hands on it. It was kind of hush-hush. But FMC came out with adapter kits, and they converted from one axle to two axles, and now you've got two axles. So I don't think those machines have an issue.
because the bean harvesters, I think, are smaller. The snap
But
beans.
some of those you might, I'm not sure how the weight is distributed on the bean harvesters. I mean, you might run into some of that. But I think pea harvesters is not an issue. The
one thing I didn't mention is that we do have bridges in the county that we may have to engineer because they are, they were 80,000-pound bridges with the old law. Now with the increase to 92, are we going to have to look and do a structural analysis of those to see if they should be posted at 80? We don't want anybody falling in like that picture. I don't think that's going to happen. Our bridges aren't that bad, but again, that impact, that axle weight of the combine hitting that bridge, is it going to take it? And that might be, we'll have to look at that down the road here, but it's not a critical thing at this point. Larry?
What happens to a farmer that lives near the county line and harvests crops in more than one county?
He has to abide by whatever county. It's the same thing for the townships, Larry. If the township does one option and we do another option, they have to get that okay from every time they cross the county lines, or a town line or county line. So if a farmer has to bring this manure, that's a bad example, his Class C 3 gravity box train, and he's going through multiple townships, he has to have a permit for every one of those. Or if he goes across the county line, he has to deal with that county too. So I think I have what will pack.
It could be quite a burden on some farmers.
Absolutely. There's no question that it's, once they get through the permit process, again, it's good for a year. They're as with anything new, there's going to be that learning curve. I think I had that email that told what those other counties were. Wapaka was leaning towards F at one time, but I don't know what they ended up with. Marquette was leaning at F. I guess I don't have it right here at my fingertips, but you're right, Larry. It could be burdensome, and that's something we can't control. That was written in the law.
As committees or county boards decide what they're going to do, do they have the ability to change it a year later?
Yes.
Or?
Yes, you can change it by, if you have an ordinance, you have to change that, of course. If you don't have an ordinance, you can get one. So yes, you have the ability to change your mind, and
You have to wait a year to change your mind, or can you, like, 3 months down the road or 6 months?
Donna, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can change it anytime you want by just passing another ordinance. So I can't find that email. I had one that had that little survey on it.
Do you know what any of the towns are doing in the county?
Richford just passed county, or option E. I don't have any other towns that officially have done anything that I know of. One town, and I won't mention it because I don't know if they did it or not yet, was going to totally opt out because every road that they have, you had to get to a county road to get anywhere. So the county let the county do all the work with the permits because they don't have to. Everett, did Springwater do anything yet? Okay. So I've had lots of phone calls or people come in from towns wondering what we were doing. And I said, we haven't decided yet. Wapaka's trying and lobbying to try to get all of their towns to be on the same page. We have 18 townships. They probably have as many. That would be a big task to try to get everybody to agree. But it could be done. So, but Richard's the only one that have told me that what they've done so far. Any other questions?
Because 92 and 23 is already a state law.
Yes.
You figure you're going to have to hire more people through permits?
No, I think we'll be able to do it with our office staff, but it is more work, and there's no ability to to get reimbursed for that. You know, we're always looking for revenue sources, and, you know, we have fees for everything, but this is something that the law says we cannot charge. So I don't see any new staff needed. And again, Bernadette, once this gets rolling, if we go with E and we need permits, and even with F, you're going to need permits if they want to go over 100 feet or if they want to go over 92,000. Again, those are not automatic permits. Those can be turned down. But with category B, if they want a permit and I say no, then we have to give them an alternate route. So you're almost headlocked into giving the permit for any category B, which, as I said, I'm in favor of that compromise. If we go to F, we don't have to worry about the category B. We're going to let them go with being over axle. And then we still have to deal with other permits for the other categories. But the category B are the ones that option E and F deal with the most. Larry.
You know how farmers organizations like Farm Bureau and stuff, how they feel about this law?
I'm sure they don't like it. Ken, do you know any of that?
Well, we've had a Farm Bureau guy present at all of these meetings, but I don't think he's really, I don't recall him setting a recommendation of either option. You know, this whole law has been a big compromise, and Farm Bureau's been involved in it. The Towns Association's been involved in it. Cheryl Skolas out of Madison has been involved in trying to coordinate it. You've got Mike Lingenberg, State Patrol has been involved in it. So it is, it's been a long program as far as a lot of compromise in different areas. Potato and vegetable growers were involved, as you've got the potato harvester situation that was brought up. So it's, you know, I think the state law is probably about as good as you're going to get right now. It's not going to satisfy everybody. And as Tom mentioned earlier, if all parties aren't really happy, then maybe it's a pretty good compromise.
Everett?
I know this is a county thing, but as town chairman, we're scared spitless about our little creeks and things like that. Our roads aren't built for anything heavier than what they're putting on them now. They're not built for what we have on there now. And the last thing I need is somebody dropping a tractor or something in, like that picture you showed us.
And let me address that. With or without permits, the statute still stands that anybody, whether it's ag or a timber hauler or anybody, is still responsible for the road damage they do. We can bill up to 3 times the amount of the damage by statute. Ruth and I talked about one today. We're sending a bill to a gentleman that did some damage to the road that we repaired, and we're sending them the bill. Whether we get paid is a different story, but we're going through the process, and we're going to try to get recouped. We're not sending the bill for 3 times the amount, because I guess that's something I just figured was not right, but we want to recoup our actual costs. So that statute still applies. Not that we want to go fixing our roads because somebody else is going to pay for them. Again, I'll go back to that science. That damage is being done by every vehicle, every axle. They call it an easel, ESAL, equivalent single axle load. They design roads and bridges by the number of easels that go over that road. So every easel that goes over that road takes away the life of it. And the heavier the easel, the more it takes away. So there is a point where we're responsible for maintaining the roads because that's what we do, and they carry traffic, and we know that. But one of those slides talked about normal and historic traffic. Combine that's 22 feet wide and 40,000 pounds on the axle is not normal in the historic traffic. It's above and beyond. The manufacturers now know that this is a problem, and they're actually starting to build things legal, where if you looked at that chart very close, there's stuff coming out of the factory that isn't even legal on the road before it even puts tire on the ground. So that all brought that, that was a good thing. That brought that problem to light.
What about rustic roads? Are they going to be treated any different than any of the rest of them?
No.
Okay, are we done? Go ahead.
I was just going to comment that we do have a new rustic road in the county, so that's coming to committee tomorrow. No, I'm done babbling here unless there's other questions.
If there are no other questions, thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate it. I never get tired of hearing that presentation. This is like number 5 times for me. Very interesting, though, and very important. We're going to move to discussion and possible action items. And now we have to have a motion to approve or deny pursuing implements of husbandry ordinance. So we're going to decide now if we want, you don't want to know which one we want, just if we want to pursue it.
Well,
Yes, we do, really.
You want to know which one, so you know how to write the ordinance.
or give me 2, or, like, if you're debating between E and F, I can write an E, I don't have to do anything for F. If you're debating between D, E, and F, I can do a D and an E, like, I just kind of need to know what you want me to bring back for next month. If you decided on F, I don't have to do anything, and yay for me.
So is that the one you prefer? Okay, we need a motion.
I like to see F done in our county. I think that would be the easiest one to do.
So you're making a motion just to do F.
I think we should have more than one.
Okay, E and F? All right. We have a motion to write the ordinance for E and F, and then we make a decision next month, right? Do we have a second? Everett's going to second that. Do we have any questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
All right, next we have a motion to approve or deny the tentative agreements with the WPPA Sheriff's Association. And we got that in our packet. Would you like either Jeff or Deb to address this?
Do you want somebody make a motion?
Yes, we'll do that. We need a motion to approve or deny. Motion by Pat to approve.
I'll second the motion.
And a second by Dennis. All right, now we will discuss.
Okay, well, it is a 2-year agreement with our WPPA group. We did some cleanup of language with we added a chief detective sergeant position. We've added the courthouse detective. We've added courthouse security, so there's language recognizing those positions. We have been trying to work with our deputies over time because of the bulletproof vests that we want them to have. We work with the federal government to secure grants, but they're still very expensive. So we've offered to put a little money aside each year that they can build up to help them pay for those vests. We have a 1% adjustment effective 1/11 of 2015 and a 1% effective 7/12 of 2015. So the budgeted amount for 2015 would be 1.5%, and that's what was budgeted for. 2016, that first pay period in 2016, we would adjust by 1.5%. This particular group had a wage scale that went out 25 years. We're backing up some of those wage scales. so that the 5-year, or the 12-year becomes a 7-year, the 15-year becomes a 10-year, the 20-year becomes a 15-year, and the 25-year becomes a 20-year. So we've just made some, it's a lot of just cleanup, really, in the language. And it was ratified by the union.
Any further questions?
With the, when you mentioned the bulletproof vests and things, was that to be included with the courthouse security as well?
They would be eligible for that also.
Any other questions? Do we need a roll call vote on this?
Probably. Okay. Sure. Mrs. Collada?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Waito?
Yes.
Mr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Mrs. Prince? Mr. Tim?
Yes.
Mr. Piaski? Mr. Eckstein?
Yes.
Mr. Weddy?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, then we'll move to consideration of possible action on the following resolutions. Resolution number 38-11-14, resolution approving the Waushara County 2015 budget appropriation. All right. Motion.
I will move to approve.
Ready? Second by King. All right, and now Mel is going to explain a couple things to us.
The document, the big budget document that you have in front of you reflects the changes that we made at the October 21st meeting, which is that $150,000 for the security cameras and the $200,000 additional for the highway department to start catching up on some of their road maintenance. So what was published as, for the budget public hearing in the paper is did not reflect the $200,000 additional for the highway. But we can make changes. We don't have to stick with what we published in the paper. I just wanted you to be aware of that. However, the document in here that says the public hearing has been updated with the current figures. So, tax levy amount of $16,250,521. Mill rate of $6 and almost 81 cents, and about an 11-cent increase over last year. So there's nothing new in it from last meeting.
I personally would like to thank Mel and Molly. They did a lot of work on this, and then all of our department heads. I appreciate it. Molly Benn's good. Her very first budget with Waushara County with her very first new baby, and so good job. All right, we have a motion and a second, and this will also be a roll call vote.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Waito?
Yes.
Mr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Mrs. Krentz?
Yes.
Mr. Tim?
No.
Mr. Piaski? Mr. Eckstein?
Yes.
Mr. Weddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Collada?
Yes.
8 ayes, 1 no, 2 absent.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have resolution number 39-11-14, a resolution authorizing the Department of Aging Services to increase the Poisippi Dining Center manager hours for the primary purpose of expanding service hours at the Poisippi Dining Center. Motion. Okay. Motion by Everett to approve.
I'll second it then.
Okay, second by Bernadette. Are there any questions, or would you like to hear from
Yes.
Deb? Okay, Deb.
The Poisippi Dining Center currently operates from April 1st to December 1st, 4 days a week, and then from December 1st to March 31st, 3 days a week. And the reason why we had to do that was because of prior law and when our site manager was hired, and our inability to afford to budget for a full benefit health insurance package for that person, even though she expressed that she didn't need it, we still would have needed to budget for it just in case at some point she did. But the law has now changed, and so we're now under the Affordable Health Care Act. You have to work at least 30 hours a week or more in order to be eligible for those benefits. And so it's not that we're trying to withhold benefits from that site manager. She didn't want or need health insurance anyway, but we just weren't able to budget for it before because we would have had to budget for the health insurance. So really, it's really no effect on county levy at all because the donations pretty much offset, the extra day of being open. So their request, the Poisippi participants have requested being open 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, all year round, rather than splitting the year up. And then the resolution was written for a potential expansion down the road because they keep coming back to us year after year. But of course, if we did that, we would have to fit that into our budget, our county budgeting process. So for right now, though, it's Monday through Thursday, year-round, that they're requesting. Yep.
This is one of our more active dining centers.
We call it rowdy. They're very rowdy.
See, I was being nice. I said just more active. All right. Are there any other questions?
Okay, those will need a roll call.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Mr. Waddle?
Yes.
Mr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Mrs. Krantz?
Yes.
Mr. Tim?
Yes.
Mr. Piaski? Mr. Eckstein?
Yes.
Mr. Weddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Plata?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
9 ayes, 2 absent.
Thank you very much. Do we have any board suggestions for future agenda items? Thank you for all of our presenters tonight. By Eckstein, second by Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
Joe.
Bye, Joe. Bye, Joe.
Big old here. He's kind of folded quickie.
Yeah, I was gonna be late. Call him up and say, Kirshner, you coming to the meeting yet or not? We ain't adjourned.
Yeah.
I got his number. If you call him, I'll give you the number. He'd have some damn excuse.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the envelope don't all fit in a package.
Maybe been on a tight fit.
Thanks for that book back.
I mean, we thought he could get it.
I was gonna ask.
Finally started my wood fire.
Goddamn good.